All right, I got a little bit of a head start on number 4. On number 4, we're going to be looking at some fun stuff, range, median, mean, standard deviation, and the coefficient of variation. You probably remember finding range, median, mean, mode, and different things like that. The standard deviation, maybe some of you, coefficient of variation, you likely never heard of. We're going to make some scatter plots. We're going to look at trend lines. We're going to create box and whisker plots and find our quartiles. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to do all that with these two short, simple data sets, List 1 and List 2, where List 1 is the heights of Army recruits in inches, and List 2 is the heights of random mall shoppers in inches. And we're going to explore what the different spreads of this data look like. So let's just jump right in. I'm going to go ahead and do a couple things here to improve the aesthetics. First of all, I am going to select my numbers and my words. So I selected those, and I'm just going to make them a light blue. I'm also going to move my numbers to the far right. I'd rather have them to the right. Yours are probably already over there. Now, for this set over here, I didn't type all this in twice because I'm just going to copy it, which I had actually already done, but I undid it so you guys can see, and then I'm just going to paste it. And that's okay if this column mic here is so wide, that's all right. We made it wide up top for some reason. We'll just leave it like that. And now I want to change that and my data set to be, let's choose green. All right. Now, I want to do some different things here. I'm going to do the math to find all of these. I know that sounds really exciting to you guys. I'm going to select that and this set of numbers again. If I would have thought of it earlier, I would have done it, and give them some borders. I'm also going to select my words up here and right-click, and I'm going to format cells, alignment, and wrap. And then I'm also going to go ahead and center them. All right. Looks like I didn't need this last piece here, but that's fine. I'll just leave it like that for now. Now I'm going to look for each of these things, but before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and have a little bit of fun. I'm going to select my set of data, and I am going to insert a scatter plot. Scatter plots are fun. Don't forget that you're going to name your chart. You have your Army recruits here, so you can just copy that right into your chart title. And then you are also going to add your axes titles to all of the charts and diagrams. So we're going to talk about the range, but we're going to actually also, we'll calculate these boring things here in a minute. They're not going to be that boring though once we start talking about them. I think you'll be more interested once you see what all stuff they actually mean. So I'm creating a second set of data. This is all in the instructions. The second set of data, I'm actually going to reorder this because I want it to be with the biggest number on top and the smallest number on bottom. And right now it's just in any random order. So I'm going to go to Editing, Sort, and Filter, as I promised you would use. And I want it to start from the largest and go down to the smallest. Because when I build my box and whisker plot, that's how it's going to be. It's going to be vertical with the bigger number on top. You'll see. All right. So while I have this set of data, let's go ahead and calculate our range. The range is the value or the difference between the largest data entry and the smallest data entry. So I simply selected those two entries. Should I do that again? I forgot to explain. Up here in my cell under range, I'm going to put an equal sign. Tell Excel to do some math for me. And now I want Excel to subtract. So I'm going to select the largest number and subtract it, and then select the smallest number and click Enter. All right, pretty neat. Let's look at our median now. The median, I can find a couple different ways. On my first set of data, I can click the equal sign and type in median, and Excel has a command for median, so I just double click it. And then I select the set of data for which I want it to find the median. And there you have it. For the mean, I just do the same thing. I have the average, The mean is the average of the set of data. Again, I just want to select it. What about the standard deviation? Some of you might have learned your standard deviation formula. I'll just show it to you. Just show it to you real quick. Formula for standard deviation. I always click on images when I Google stuff. It makes it easier. But you see here the standard deviation is actually, we just take the median, or the mean, I'm sorry, and we subtract the mean from every single value, and we take that difference and we square it. And then we add all those squared differences together and divide by how many entries we have, and then we take the square root of all that. So it looks very complicated, and we'll look at the formula. We're actually going to have to enter this formula into Excel at some point during this whole entire semester, but no time soon, so don't worry, because right now you get to just hit the equal sign and type in STD, or just ST, and you have a lot of options here. You have the standard deviation of a population, a sample, other things. I do not know what they mean, but I do know that we're going to use this STDEV. All right, and I want the standard deviation of all of this information. What the heck is the standard deviation? Don't worry, you're going to find out. We're going to talk all about it here in just a minute. The coefficient of variation, so just put an equal sign, click on standard deviation, divided by the mean, and voila, you have your coefficient of variation. Easy enough, right? All right, let's move down to our ordered data, and what we're going to do with this is we're going to select it and insert. We're going to go to scatter plots again. I think there's a better way to do this, but this is just how I know how. More scatter charts. And then I'm going to get this whole list here. So I'm going to scroll down to box and whisker and click OK. And now I have a nice box and whisker chart. Of course, you will name the chart and add axes labels to both the vertical axis and the horizontal axis. And here we'll get to look at all kinds of stuff. I don't want to run it by talking about everything. Right now, we're just going to set everything up, and then we're going to come back and talk about it. So I want to find a few other things. It says in my instructions I need to find the median, Q1, and Q3. We already found the median, but remember I said there were multiple ways to find it? Well, we're going to find the other way right now. Once I have my data set ordered from least to greatest or greatest to least, in this case we went greatest to least, only because of the vertical axis on the box and whisker chart. So I find the data entry point right smack in the middle. I'm going to go ahead and highlight that a different color. And then that is my median. And so you see that's your median here. And it is truly a coincidence that this is in the center of this data set. It could have been anywhere. We actually have two 72s, so I didn't even realize that. We actually have a what? A mode, right? So it looks like 72 is our mode. So our center data set here is 72. And now that is going to be my median. So I'm just going to type median here. Now I want to find Q1. Well, what is Q1? Well, this is my upper set. Everything above the median is my upper set and below is my lower set. I'm fortunate I did not have to add two numbers together and divide by 2 to find the average because I had an odd number of data entries. But finding my Q1 means I find the median of just the upper set, just what's left over in blue. And I do not have a center value. So I'm going to have to find my Q1, I'm going to have to do some math, or actually have Excel do math for me, equals, I'm going to need parentheses here because I'm finding the average. So I'm going to add two things together and then divide by 2. So those two things are going to be, I'm clicking the cells. So what is this? Charlie 149 plus, whoops, that's equals, plus Charlie 148. And yours will likely be different numbers. And then I am going to divide that by 2. And just something weird happened here when I clicked something wrong and it moved from Charlie to Delta. So I just have to go back and fix it. All right, so now I have my Q1 value. I'm going to go ahead and make that peach 2. I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to see if this will work and paste it right here. Oh, look at that. So now I have my Q2, and what it did is it just used the same proximity. So it took these two values and added them together and divided by 2. Yay. So now I have Q1 and Q2. I'm actually going to select all of this, and I'm going to move all mine over to the right, just to make it look more like this chart. All right, so I have all of these values, and now I want to look at those compared to my box and whisker plot. My box and whisker plot is really small, so it's kind of hard to tell, but this bottom line, this bottom whisker, is my minimum value, which is 66. And then once I get, let's see, surely I could do better than this for you guys, right? Just make this whole thing big. So here, my minimum value is 66, which is the bottom value on my chart here. My whoops, do you see how I named this Q2? This is actually Q3. Q2 is your median. My Q3 is the bottom of this line right here, so that's 69.5. My median is this line in the middle of the inner quartile range, and then my Q3 is 74.5, and then my max is 80. See how all of this correlates to this chart? We still haven't got to the good stuff yet. We're still just doing regular math stuff, but pretty soon we're going to start talking about the spread of this data, which is really cool. I realized that I forgot to put my trend line here on my Army recruits, so I'm going to go ahead and click that, and I'm going to add a trend line. As we move along with this course throughout the semester, we're going to be looking at other types of trend lines, lines of best fit, and all kinds of really cool stuff. But for now, we're just going to click on trend line, and you see how it puts a nice line right in there, and I can see how far away each data entry is from that line, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But first, we're going to come over here and do all of the same stuff with our random shoppers. I am going to first get this box out of my way here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make this proximity, see if this strip up here and this column look exactly like these two. This one I don't have a space. See, I don't have that space, and this one I do. So I am going to select all of this stuff, and I'm just going to move it over one space. Very good. So now it's the same proximity, which means I'm going to be able to use my formulas. Now I'm also going to keep that selected, and I am going to right-click and format my cells and wrap it. I am also going to widen column Papa, select all that again, and I'm going to center it. All right. And you know, where our median is, it's a big, huge gap, I know, but that's okay. We'll live with it. Now I have all of this squared away. It looks good. I can just, a couple more things I have to do here. I'm going to move this out of my way because I need that space now. So I am going to copy this information down here. Oh, sorry, there's one more thing I want to do. Even before I copy that information, I'm going to go back and select this stuff and put my borders. All right, now I'm going to select here, Control Copy, Control Victor, and here you see that I get all of my data. Let's just check it. I have my range. I don't have anything for my range because there's nothing down there yet. But you see how it uses the exact same proximities? For my median, it took the median of this chart. That's why I had to move this all over. My mean, just double checking to make sure it did everything properly. All right, now I'm going to select, watch, this is going to be really cool. I'm going to select this data, Control Charlie, and I'm going to paste it right down here next to the other set of data. Is it all the same? Control Victor. And now look, it gave me a range of -34, but why? Because this set of data has not yet been ordered. So I'm going to go to my filter and do it from the largest to the smallest. And now I have a range. Very nice. Okay, I'm going to select my set of data, insert a scatter plot. I am going to add a nice title to my scatter plot, as well as add axes titles. I am also going to add a trend line. Very good. See how fast and painless that was? I'm also going to select my other set of data, insert a scatter plot, go down to more scatter charts, and scroll over to find box and whisker. and click OK. All right, another cool thing that I get to do is just select these. I'm just going to select it from the top to the bottom. So I'm selecting this whole column I made over here with my Q1, median, and Q3. Control copy, and I'm just going to paste it right next to my other chart. And voila, check it out. My Q1 added together those two cells divided by 2. My median's right smack in the middle, so that was easy to find. So that was pretty good stuff there, wouldn't you say? I'm just going to select all these and put them flush to the right. All right, a couple things I want to do just to clean this up. I'm going to select these 2 sets of data and give them some borders. Everything looks good. You ready to start talking about this? Because you guys are going to have a report. You're going to insert a text box. And you can even just copy and paste your other text boxes like I'm doing here. And you're going to write a report about all this stuff. So here's the kind of stuff you're going to talk about. I have 2 sets of data. One set gives me the heights of Army recruits in inches, while the other set gives me the heights of mall shoppers in inches. I can see that the heights of Army recruits are all close to 6 feet tall. 72 inches is 6 feet. So most of these are either close to 6 foot, at 6 foot, or more. 80 inches is pretty tall. So I am going to assume that these are all male Army recruits. And the spread of the data between their heights is pretty close. You can see because they're close, the dots are close to the trend line, that their heights are all pretty close to about the same line. We can also see that we have a standard deviation of 4. The standard deviation of 4 means that if I took the average difference of all the heights, the average difference between the heights, that it would be about a 4-inch difference. We'll come back over here again too, but let's look at our recruits, our mall shoppers, and talk about the same thing. Well, mall shoppers are obviously not going to be all the same sex and close to the same heights, because in a mall, we have people here 34 inches, that's less than 3 feet, and then we have people all the way up to just below, what is that, about 5'10", so just below 6 feet tall. So it looks like we have all the way, well, actually, I better look at the range over here. We have over 6 feet, 6'5". So we go from less than 3 feet to 6'5". So you can clearly see that the spread of data is extremely loose amongst this trend line. And look at our standard deviation. If you took the heights of all of these mall shoppers and found the average difference between their heights, the average distance or the average difference is 14 inches. That's a lot. That's over a foot. And then let's look at our coefficient of variation. The coefficient of variation for the Army recruits is much smaller than the coefficient of variation for the mall shoppers. So this number also gives us some understanding of how spread apart our data is. The smaller the coefficient of variation, the tighter the data. The smaller the deviation, the standard deviation, the tighter the data. The mean and median doesn't really tell us much here, because I do know that the average height of the Army recruits is about 6 foot, where the average height of the mall shoppers was still, 58 inches. So when we're looking at those, we can kind of tell from the mean and median that our data is about normally distributed, but we're looking more at the spread of our data for this particular assignment. Let's also look at the spread of data here on our box and whisker plots. The spread, pull this up here, the range between here, you can see, is from about 69.5 to about 66 to 80. The min and max are the bottom and top of the whiskers, where we have our Q1, Q2, which is just our, let's look at the other one, this one's easier to see. We have our min, Q1, our median, Q3, and our max. And that's how a box and whisker plot looks. The tighter our data, the smaller our standard deviation, the smaller our coefficient of variation, the tighter our box and whisker plot will look. The larger the spread, the bigger the whisker plot will look. Now, I'm not going to go through it, but there's a really cool project you guys are going to do later on where you will change this axis, these two axes, and you can actually make this data look like it's more spread out than the mall shoppers. So we'll look at that another time, but for now, we are going to move on to number 5.